I think the quarterback situations at Ohio State and Oregon respectively, it might be the biggest hinge point in college football for 2025. Because look at just not the Big Ten. Like, they're the two best odds to win the Big Ten. That makes sense. They have Oregon and Ohio State respectively, two of the top three best odds to win the national championship. So the Big Ten is going to be stacked. Surprise, surprise. Currently the best college or the best conference in college football. But I think around Dante Moore at Oregon and Julian Sayin / Lincoln Kienholz at Ohio State, there is so much there that makes the buzz around both of them during spring practice really, really noteworthy and intriguing. Let's start with Dante Moore. You kind of expect to hear good things about him, right? Because of the fact that he waited a year, is in the same system, it was a 5-star cat out of high school and all those things. You brought in Dante Moore to Oregon to be able to pick up where Dillon Gabriel left off. Like, he went to Oregon to be able to sit and hit the ground running. Like, this is supposed to be the Dante Moore campaign, if you will, this upcoming. It's supposed to be his moment, if you will, because of the way that went at UCLA and all that. Like, I'm really excited to see what he is, because with what's around him on that roster, the way that Dan Lanning has recruited, the way that they're probably going to hit the portal yet again and add more talent around him, everything is on the table for Oregon to run it back and win the Big Ten again in 25, to be a team that competes for a national championship, obviously, by nature of the odds. But it's still going to be quarterback driven. It's still going to be a thing where Dante Moore has got to make good on all of the talent around him and unlock it. Kind of the same deal with Ohio State. The difference is you don't have the same continuity with your offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly, it's hard to fault the guy who's going to go coach the NFL and not recruit high schoolers, and I'm sure his family's probably pretty happy about that. But whether it's Lincoln Kienholz or Julian Sayin, it's going to be quarterback driven in the same way for Ohio State's success. Like, if Oregon or Ohio State were to fall off the wagon, and let's just say the worst possible case scenario happens for either side, and they miss the college football playoff, it's probably a thing where you look right at the quarterback position and say, hey, what happened here? Because everywhere else, yeah, there's new pieces for Ohio State for sure. There's new pieces for Oregon, of course. But with how they both add talent, they both still have college football playoff level rosters, on paper at least. And so the thing worth monitoring during the spring is, as college football fans and just college football in general, as we cover the sport, we try and check our footing as best we can when we speak about players and their potential success for 2025. We try to leave a little bit of room for interpretation and, hey, this is how it looks, how it feels, how it sounds. However, if it doesn't go that way, we didn't commit 110% to it. Like, that's kind of how we just exist in this space during this time of year. But if you're confident in your quarterback during spring practice, you're letting everybody know. Like, a great example of this is Miami a season ago. Nobody was saying, I hope Cam Ward works out at Miami. Nobody was saying, I wonder if number one's going to be able to get the job done for us. Everyone was like, yo, this dude Cam Ward's different. I don't know how he was ever at Incarnate Word, but this dude is another species. We're going to be really freaking good because he's an absolute dog. When you got the quarterback right, as a fan base, as a website, and media in general, you let everybody know because you saw it. So you want to make sure you're the first to it. And so I'd be very curious to see what that buzz is around both these quarterbacks, whether it's, or all three of these quarterbacks, I suppose, if we're going to factor in Kienholz, Sayin, and Dante Moore. We've called our shot. We think Julian Sayin wins the job at Ohio State. But the hinge point there is absolutely incredibly massive because of the obvious of what we already said, roster, potential to win the national title, all those things. But let's bake in one more prong to this. What if they do fall off the wagon, like we said a second ago? What if maybe you don't get the same caliber of play that you have come to expect as an Oregon fan or an Ohio State fan at the quarterback position? One, that's a bummer, of course. But that opens up the door for things to get very interesting. In the Big Ten, what happens to a Penn State? We told you we think Michigan has a chance to make some noise. Is Nebraska able to get up off the mat a little bit here and make a push here in Matt Rule's third year? Illinois, Luke Altmaier and co., could they make some noise? Like, the Big Ten in itself has a lot of tectonic plates that start to shift. But then, even bigger picture nationally, if those are two teams that are supposed to compete for a national title and one of them doesn't have the prerequisite at quarterback, that's an open spot too. I promise you, like seeing a team like Ohio State not in the playoff with how good that roster is for anyone across the country, SEC, ACC, Big, I mean, that's That's a welcome sight for everyone because even if they don't have it at quarterback, the rest of that roster potential is good enough to where if you saw them in the first round, still not ideal, still not a great matchup because of all the 5 stars they have or that Oregon has. So this is one to really monitor very closely. Letterman Rowe, the entire team over there is covering Ohio State better than anybody in the entire industry. Same deal with Scoop Duck. Justin Hopkins and company crushing it all there. So be tuned in to the intel around the quarterback position. If your quarterback is a dude and you know he's a dude, you shout about it. Don't leave it up for interpretation. You shout about it. Last thing I'll say, if you don't hear the volume around Ohio State's quarterback room early on, that's okay. It's okay for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to be a battle. I mean, Tavian St. Clair is a stud true freshman who's going to factor in, it sounds like, to some degree. They're going to give him his fair share of reps to be able to compete for that job. One, it's going to be a battle. Two, Ryan Day, even when you know who the quarterback's going to be, he doesn't typically name the guy until right around mid-August. Did it with Justin Fields, did it with C.J. Stroud, just sort of how he operates. So just stay tuned into the buzz. Stay tuned to the buzz, and I think the buzz will grow a little bit more around Ohio State here as we get into fall camp. But regardless, again, those two positions, or those two spots at the same position across Oregon and Ohio State, that is going to hold a massive impact for the Big Ten, the national championship, and the intel right now in spring is going to give us a good barometer as we jump full speed into summer, fall, and the games being played.